They warned him one glance at her would cost him everything. But he couldn't stop staring at the woman who was never meant to be his. Please subscribe the channel, press bell, like, comments, and share this video. Thanks for watching. The desert wind carried whispers across the Texas plains that summer of 1878, the kind of whispers that could destroy a man's reputation or build his legend. For Samuel Hartley, owner of the Broken Arrow Ranch, those whispers had already begun the moment she stepped off the stagecoach in the dusty town of Copper Springs. "Don't look," his foreman Marcus warned, grabbing Samuel's arm as they stood outside the general store. "There's Clara Whitmore. She's promised to Judge Patterson's son. Looking at her will bring nothing but trouble." But Samuel looked anyway. She stood beneath the weathered awning of the hotel, her auburn hair catching the afternoon light like copper threads woven through silk. Her dress was modest, travel-worn, yet she carried herself with a dignity that seemed almost defiant against the harshness of the frontier. When her eyes met his across the street, something shifted in Samuel's chest, a feeling he had buried deep after losing his wife Sarah to fever 3 winters past. Clara's gaze lingered perhaps a moment too long before she turned away, disappearing into the hotel's shadowed doorway. Samuel's heart thundered like a stallion's hooves against his ribs. "You heard me, boss," Marcus said, his weathered face creased with concern. "The Patterson family owns half this county. They've already spread word that anyone who so much as tips their hat wrong to that woman will answer to them." Samuel knew the truth of those words. Judge Harrison Patterson had built his empire on intimidation and carefully maintained appearances. His son, Theodore, was cut from the same cloth, handsome in a cold way, with eyes that calculated value in everything they surveyed, including his future bride. "She didn't look happy," Samuel said quietly. "That ain't your concern. You got a ranch to run and a daughter to raise. Don't go stirring up hornets." Samuel nodded, but as they rode back to Broken Arrow that evening, he couldn't shake the image of Clara's face. There had been something there, a sadness, a longing, perhaps even a silent plea that called to the emptiness he'd carried since Sarah's passing. 3 weeks passed before Samuel saw her again. He had brought his 8-year-old daughter Emma into town for new boots, and there was Clara, standing outside the church, her hands clasped before her as she stared at the distant mountains. Emma tugged at his sleeve. "Papa, that lady looks sad. Can we give her some of our honey cakes?" Before Samuel could respond, Emma had already broken away, running toward Clara with the small bundle of treats they'd purchased from the bakery. He watched as Clara knelt down, her face transforming with a genuine smile that made her even more beautiful. "What's your name?" Samuel heard Clara ask as he approached. "Emma Hartley. My papa makes the best cattle in all of Texas, and my mama is watching us from heaven." Clara's eyes glistened as she looked up at Samuel. "You have a remarkable daughter, Mr. Hartley." "She takes after her mother," Samuel replied, removing his hat. "I'm sorry if she's bothered you, ma'am." "Clara, please. And she's no bother. She's a blessing." Clara accepted a honey cake from Emma's outstretched hand. "I've been quite lonely here, truth be told." "Lonely?" The word escaped Samuel before he could stop it. "I would have thought that my engagement would provide ample company." Clara's smile turned bitter. "Theodore's often away on business. His father keeps careful watch over me, ensuring I'm properly behaved until the wedding." The way she said the words, "properly behaved," carried the weight of a prisoner describing her chains. "Miss Whitmore," a sharp voice cut through the air. Judge Patterson's assistant, a weasel-faced man named Crawford, hurried toward them. "The judge requires you return to the hotel immediately." Clara's face paled, but she maintained her composure. She squeezed Emma's hand gently before rising. "Thank you for the cake, sweet girl. And Mr. Hartley," she paused, meeting his eyes with an intensity that spoke volumes. "Thank you for not looking away." The town talked, as towns do. Within days, word had spread that Samuel Hartley had been seen conversing with Judge Patterson's future daughter-in-law. Some called him foolish. Others called him worse. But Samuel kept staring. He found reasons to visit town more frequently. He purchased supplies they didn't need, brought Emma for treats she didn't ask for. Each time he would see Clara in the window of the hotel, walking with her ever-present escort, sitting alone in the church pew during Sunday services. And each time their eyes would meet, and in those brief moments, entire conversations passed between them without a single word spoken. One evening, Samuel found a note tucked into his saddle after leaving the general store. The handwriting was delicate, feminine. The old mill by the river, sunset. Please. He knew he shouldn't go. Every sensible bone in his body screamed that this was madness. But when had love ever been sensible? Clara was waiting when he arrived, the setting sun painting the sky in shades of orange and purple behind her. She had shed her formal attire for a simpler dress, and her hair hung loose around her shoulders. "You came," she whispered, relief flooding her features. "I would have crossed 100 rivers," Samuel admitted, dismounting and walking toward her. "Clara, I need to understand." "Understand what? That I'm a prize to be traded between wealthy families? That my father owed Judge Patterson a debt he couldn't repay, and I was the payment?" Tears streamed down her face. "I didn't choose this, Samuel. I never chose any of this." He reached out, wiping her tears with his callous thumb. "Then don't go through with it. You don't know what they're capable of. They'll destroy you. They'll take your ranch, your daughter. Let them try." And then Samuel did something that would enrage all of Copper Springs. He kissed her, right there in the fading light, with the river singing beside them and the stars beginning to emerge. He kissed the woman promised to another man. News traveled faster than wildfire. By morning, Judge Patterson had mobilized every resource at his disposal. He rode to Broken Arrow with 20 armed men, his face twisted with fury as he confronted Samuel on his own porch. "You have made a grievous error, Hartley," the judge snarled. "Clara Whitmore is the property of my family. You had no right to touch what belongs to us." "She's not property," Samuel replied, his hand resting on the rifle at his side. "She's a woman with her own heart and her own choices." "Choices?" The judge laughed cruelly. "Women don't make choices. They follow the path they're better set for them. And you, a simple rancher with dirt under his nails. You think you can challenge me?" The townspeople had gathered at a distance, watching the confrontation. Among them stood Clara, her face resolute despite the guards flanking her. "I don't think I can challenge you, Judge. I know I will." What followed became the stuff of legend. Samuel called upon every ally he had, ranchers who had suffered under Patterson's tyranny, businessmen tired of paying tribute to a corrupt judiciary, ordinary people who longed for justice. Battle wasn't fought with guns, though there were tense moments when it seemed violence was inevitable. Instead, Samuel fought with truth. He gathered evidence of Patterson's misdeeds, forged land deeds, bribery, intimidation of witnesses. He sent letters to federal authorities, to newspapers in larger cities, to anyone who would listen. The judge's empire crumbled slowly. Then all at once, 6 months later, the day Theodore Patterson fled the county to escape arrest, Samuel found Clara standing in the same spot by the river where they had first kissed. "It's over," she whispered as he approached. "I'm free. Are you?" he asked gently. "Truly free? Because I won't be another cage for you, Clara. If you want to leave, to find your own way." She silenced him with a kiss, her arms wrapping around his neck as she pulled him close. When they finally parted, her smile was radiant. "My own way led me here, Samuel, to you, to Emma, to a life I never dared dream was possible." Emma appeared from behind a tree, unable to contain her excitement any longer. She ran to Clara, wrapping her small arms around the woman's waist. "Does this mean you'll stay forever? Does this mean you'll be my new mama? Clara knelt, cupping Emma's face in her hands. "If you'll have me, sweet girl. If you both will have me." "Yes," Emma exclaimed, and her joyful cry echoed across the river, carried by the same winds that had once brought whispers of scandal and ruin. The wedding took place in autumn, when the Texas landscape transformed into a tapestry of golds and reds. The entire town of Copper Springs attended. The same townspeople who had once whispered in judgment now celebrated the union of two souls who had found each other against impossible odds. As Samuel stood at the altar watching Clara walk toward him, he remembered Marcus's words from that first day, "Don't look." He was grateful he hadn't listened. Some things in life were worth the staring. Some things were worth the risk of enraging all the powers that sought to keep love in chains. Some things were worth fighting for until your last breath. Clara reached him, her hand slipping into his as naturally as if they had been holding hands for 1,000 years. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you too," he replied, "and I always will, from now until the mountains crumble and the rivers run dry." The ceremony proceeded, blessed by a new judge, one appointed by fair means rather than corruption. When it concluded, Samuel kissed his bride as the crowd cheered. Emma stood between them, the three forming a circle of love that no force on earth could break. Later that night, as they sat on the porch of Broken Arrow Ranch, now their home together, Clara rested her head on Samuel's shoulder while Emma dozed in his lap. "What are you thinking about?" Clara asked. "That first day," Samuel admitted. "When Marcus told me not to look, why didn't you listen?" He considered the question, gazing out at the star-filled sky that stretched endlessly above their land, the land that would now see their children grow, their love deepen, their family flourish for generations to come. "Because some things call to us in ways we can't explain," he finally said. "Some things speak to our souls before our minds can catch up. When I saw you, Clara, I saw home, I saw hope, I saw everything I thought I had lost forever." She squeezed his hand, tears of joy glistening in her eyes. "Then I'm grateful you kept staring, Samuel Hartley. I'm grateful you enraged them all. And in the quiet peace of the frontier nigh, surrounded by the land they would work together, the daughter they would raise together, and the love they would nurture together. The rancher who kept staring, and his bride who waited to be seen began there forever.